Let's spend some time to understand what is variable and constant. The term variable, it's made of two things. Okay. Vary plus able. What does that mean? Vary means change. Able means ability. So something which has the ability to change value or the forms, that is called variable. Okay. Part one. Example. If I make integer a equal to 10 and I make a equal to 20. So there is no error if I do that. Okay. But another part is constant. Constant, as the name says, it cannot change the value. Okay. So if I say constant integer b equal to 20 or final integer b equal to, let's say, 20, the word constant is very popular in C++. It's there in Golang. It's there in Perl also. The final keyword was introduced in Java. Prior to that, Java used to have something for const. And now, if after making it constant, if I try to make it, let's say 40, will I be able to do that? Will I be able to change the value? No, this is going to throw me an error that you cannot change the value. Okay. So these are two things. One is called the variable, where if you decide something or if you make any variable of any data type, you have the ability that you can change their values later. But if you make a constant, then you are not allowed to alter the values. Both have their different use cases. If I have a value which is changing, I will use it as a variable. If I have a value which I don't want to change, I will make it as a constant. The word final in Java, this is not just limited to a data type. This can be extended to classes, this can be extended to interfaces, this can be extended to multiple other things, functions as well. Okay. So we are going to look at the code part. Yeah, I'll write in the codes Python as well. Let's quickly go to a website which we'll be using every single time when we're doing the question. That is called LeetCode. I'll give you an overview of LeetCode, not right now. Maybe in the next class, I'll give you an overview of LeetCode, how to solve, what to solve, where to solve. Okay, but not right now. I'm not giving any overview of the LeetCode right now. We'll have to do that in separate session. Right now, I'm just writing a code to continue with understanding variable and constant. Okay, just change the language. This is good. Let's start with a quick code. So let's move it here. We have this public class main. Let's start writing the code. We have this public static void main. What are we going to do is we're going to define a equal to 10. Okay. And I can print whatever the value of a is. Then what do? We make a equal to, let's say, 20, and I'm printing the output of a. What should be the output, guys? Quickly tell me in the chat. All agree? See, if it is a 10, it's a variable, so you can change the value if you want. So if you change the value, the output will become 20. Okay. So let's run the code. Output becomes 10 and 20. No issues with that. But if same thing I do with something else, copy this. I make it as a final integer p, and I make it as 20, and then I change it to 40. Let's go one by one. I'll comment this. I'll come here. So far, there any issue in the code? Will the code run now? Is there any issue in the so far? So guys, I've commented that code. So far there is no issue. Okay. So let's clear this, run the code. Output becomes 10, 20, 20, easy. No issue so far. But the moment I try to make b equal to 40, do you think this code will work? It will not work, because what you're doing is you're trying to say, I declared a constant, I'm going to change it, which is not good. So output will become false. Why? You cannot assign a value to a final variable b. That's what the output you'll get. So you can copy this, and then we can come back here. You've seen the output. It will be 10, 20, and 20, and this one will throw you an error. Okay, cool. Now, other languages in C# also, we have a const keyword. I've taken Java for keeping final, but other languages have const keyword. For Python, you don't have any const keyword specifically per se. So one way is that you can include getters and setters if you're using it in a class. That's one way. Another way is you can define something like my constant, and then you can change it. My constant, or you can define something with a string or whatever definition you want. Because Python is a loosely typed language. Python is not a strongly typed language. Means the data type can change at the runtime. So you can define whatever constant you want, and then you can use it. These are the two ways to do it in Python. Okay. I think it was a runtime error. Okay, let's have a look. No, it's going to be a compile time error. I can show you again in case you missed it. I believe you can see it now. I'll just take the annotation. This is a compile time error. Okay, this is not runtime error. So I'll clear this, move here. Okay, we're back here. Everybody knows why it is a compile time error, right? Okay, before I go there, actually we'll discuss that in the coming classes, but just to let you know, is Java compiled language or a not compiled language? Is Java compiled language or interpreted language? We'll have a discussion in detail. So if you don't know it, that's completely okay. But just to let you know, Java is a compiled language. What do you mean by compiled language? What do you mean by compilation? You need to understand these basics of programming languages. Again, we're going to discuss in detail, so no need to worry about it. Any compiled language, it goes through two steps. What do you mean by two steps? First, the source code will be converted to some kind of machine code. You can code bytecode. Bytecode is specific to Java and Golang. So that's why I'm not calling it bytecode. But to keep it generic, let's call it machine code. Okay. And if you have noticed it, you will see a dot class file. You will see a dot CPP file, not CPP, you will see a dot .cxe file created. And then from that machine code, you get that output. Okay. So this part is called the compilation. And this part is called the execution. The statement clear to all? This is for the compiled languages, not for interpreted languages. Interpreted languages, line by line, they execute the code. Okay. We'll discuss this in detail, so no need to worry about anything. I'll discuss each and everything in detail as well. But just to somebody else, I just wanted to clarify it. Java is a compiled language. So if your program has not compiled successfully, not compiled successfully means if it has not generated a dot class file, that is going to be a compile time error. This part clear to all? Come on, guys, be quick in the chat. If anybody has questions, please ask me. Okay, all good. Cool. Now on that note, I'm going to ask an interesting question, and that question I'll use later, maybe in tomorrow's class or somewhere, to revert back to this. But let me ask an interesting question. This will be used as one of the CP trick also, which we'll discuss tomorrow. But let's start with the question first. When you say integer a equal to 10, a very simple example I'm taking. What exactly happens at the memory level? When you say integer a equal to 10, how much bytes integer occupies? All agree? 4 bytes. Okay. Integer occupy 4 bytes. 4 byte means 32 bits. So somewhere 32 bits are stored. So when you say reserve, what exactly is happening? The 4 bytes, which is 32 bits, it's getting reserved in memory. So when you say in memory, it's going to be a RAM. Something under the name of A, it's going to be reserved. And where it is reserved? It is reserved in the registers. Okay. Understand, until unless you're doing a file input output operation, you are getting your memory in the RAM itself. Okay. In the RAM specifically, there's a place called registers. That's where your actual memory gets stored. Again, RAM is a very broad word or a vague word to show. If you have to speak very technical terms, it is getting stored in the registers. This part clear to all? This part clear to all? Okay. Next. Same thing we can extend it to a data structure also. If I make an array of size 10, if you are making an array of size 10, means now there are going to be 10 integers. 10 integers. So one integer take 4 bytes. I'll just write it as size. One integer take 4 bytes. How much size will an array of 10 integers will take? Come on, guys, be quick. Of course, 10 into 4 will become 40 bytes. 4 into 10 will become 40 bytes. Copy this, paste it here. It's going to reserve 40 bytes, which is 320 bits, again in the registers. Okay. This is how memory allocation works. Now, what the question was about is, let's start with that. When you say a equal to 10, any kind of assignment, I hope everybody knows that a single equal to in programming, let me clear that also. A single equal to means assignment and a double equal to means equality. Okay. And there's a triple equal to that is in JavaScript to check type and value both. Okay. That is something specific to JavaScript. But overall, if I talk about programming, whenever you use single equal to means you are assigning a value. Whenever you use double equal to means you're comparing the value based upon values. And triple equal to is something which is in JavaScript to check both type and value. These three parts clear to all? Yes or no? Okay. If these three parts is clear to all, I'm going to ask you a question and then you guys tell me the answer. When you say a equal to 10, is it LHS to RHS assignment or is it RHS to LHS assignment? All agree? All agree? Okay. So when you say equal to 10, this is read as 10 is assigned to A. Okay. Or when you say equal to B, B is assigned to A. This part clear to all? When you say equal to 10, 10 is assigned to A, or when you say equal to B, B is assigned to A. Okay. This is what we call as RHS to LHS. But my question is, this is something that you are explaining, or this is something that you know, or maybe you probably read somewhere. Can you prove this via code? This is just a theory, right? And as an engineer, you should not just believe in the theory. Can anybody prove me with a code that when you assign, it is RHS to LHS assignment, not the other way around? Question clear to all? This concept or this context is clear to all. I just want anybody to prove it to me via code. Show me with a code that it is RHS to LHS assignment. When you try to print the value of 10, it won't give A. Okay, equal to 0. Guys, show me the code. Let the code talk and tell me by code why this is RHS to LHS assignment. You can take as simplest code as you want. I don't want any complicated code. You can take as simplest code as you want. Come on, guys, be quick. You can take your time. I'm not saying that you need to give the answer in a rush. You can take your time and then give me the answer. The question statement is you need to prove via code that it is RHS to LHS assignment. See, this can be proved in millions of ways. I'll take a very simple example and we'll talk about it. One of the examples that some of you are and majority of you are taking is A equal to 10, B equal to 20, A equal to B. That is okay. That's a good acceptable answer. Let's go to lead code and let's try to verify that. Or rather than verifying, let's try to prove that. I'm just going to make it very simple. Okay. Is there anything wrong in this code? The code that you're seeing on the screen, is there anything wrong in this code? No. Okay, let's make something wrong. Now, is there anything wrong in this code? What is wrong? Type error. Okay, let's start with basics. It's a type error. Now, understand how is that going to give me my answer? I'll just take a notation here and let me know if you guys agree. The LHS part is a integer. LHS part is an integer. All agree? The RHS part is a string. Now, we know that this is going to be an error, but What exactly is the error will tell me whether it's a LHS to RHS assignment or RHS to LHS assignment. Agree? If the error comes that integer cannot be converted to a string, means it is LHS to RHS assignment. If the error comes that string cannot be converted to integer, then it is RHS to LHS assignment. And that will clarify for me. All agree? LHS is a different data type, RHS is a different data type. Based upon what error message I get, I will get to know whether it is LHS to RHS or RHS to LHS. That will prove it for me. Okay. I'm sure you would have noticed this multiple times. I mean, you would have coded this multiple times, might or might not have noticed it. Okay. So let me write it here. If it is left hand side to right hand side, error would be integer cannot be converted to string. And if I go from RHS to LHS, string cannot be converted to integer. Agree? Now we're going to run the code and we're going to see the output, and that will clarify for us. What is the output? The output says string cannot be converted to integer. So is it LHS to RHS or RHS to LHS? It's RHS to LHS. Okay. So let's copy this. Let's go back to our Sublime. This is what we have done by code. This is our output as well. Okay. This is what we have proved. Okay. Of course, there are many ways to prove it. I've just taken a very simple example to make sure everybody's aligned. Okay. Cool. So having a quick look what we have done, we are almost half done through the session. We have talked about variable and constant. We talked about the basics of DSA, the definition part. Now we can talk about something called data types, operators, loops, and pattern bending questions. Okay. We are going with good speed, so we are done. How to prove it? Python has its loose problem type. That there are multiple ways to do it. The example that somebody has taken, a equal to 10, b equal to 20, and then you pay equal to b, and then you try to print the value of a. So if it was LHS to RHS, that is another example that you can take. If it was LHS to RHS, then B will also change, correct? A value will be, and then B will also change. But since it is RHS to LHS, B will remain same, which is 20, and A will also become 20. That's all. Okay. All right, guys. Now let's move on to the next topic, which is data types. We're going to talk about data types in detail, every different kind of data type, so on and so forth. Now, in terms of data types, what exactly is data type? Let's talk about that and then we'll deep down into it. A data type is identity of any variable or constant. Okay. What do you mean by identity? Identity means something which will known for it. For example, in India, you probably would your Aadhaar card. In US, we have our SSN number, and some other countries, whatever that identifier is called. Okay. That is identity, which tells about if it is a variable or if it is a constant, what type does it belong to? Where does it belong to exactly? Okay. So when you say integer A, integer is the data type. So it tells me that A will take only integer values. Okay. And when you say string B, it means B will only or take only string value. That's what it means. Okay. Definition of data type clear to all? It's just the identity of any variable or constant. Okay. Now we deep down into programming languages. This is something that I was talking about earlier. When we say programming languages, we have two different types of programming languages. One is called the compile time, and one is called the interpreted. Okay. Let's start with compile time languages. So compile time languages are strictly typed languages. Strictly typed languages. What do you mean by strictly typed languages? Strictly typed languages means if I say integer a equal to 10, the data type of a is an integer here. Okay. And the value in a, that is 10 here. What does that mean? The moment you have decided a to be an integer, until and unless your program is completed, a can only and only take integers. This part clear to all? When you say strictly type means if you have made a as an integer, you cannot store a double in it, you cannot store a float in it, you cannot store a string in it, you cannot store a boolean in it. It is only meant to store only the integer values. This part clear to all? Come on guys, be quick. Okay. So this is what strictly type languages means. A will only take the integers till the end of program execution. Okay. So if you make a equal to ABC, this is going to throw you an error. Okay. Examples of compile time languages include C, C++, C Sharp, Golang, Java, etc. They all are compile time languages. Okay. Source code, bytecode compiler, readable interpreter, machine readable code interpreter, Java is compile time. We'll discuss about, that's what I said, we'll discuss in detail, but Java is compile time to give you an answer. Okay. Now, we talked about the first category of language, which is compile time language. Compile time languages are strictly typed languages. Means if there's a data type, that data type will remain in action till the end of program execution. If you try to assign any other value, any other data type, that is going to throw you an error. This part is still clear to all? Clear to all? Okay. Now let's take second type of languages. Second type of languages, interpreted languages. What do you mean by interpreted languages? These are loosely typed languages. Loosely typed languages in the sense, if you give a equal to ABC and a equal to 10, it will not give you any error. They are not tied to a particular data type. So you can give them a string, you can give them an integer, you can give them whatever you want. It is not tied to any particular data type. That is what you call as loosely typed language. So there is no strict data type associated with variable or constant. Everything is an object. There is no strict data type which is associated with any variable or constant. Everything is an object. Okay. Let's talk about an example. Example include JavaScript and Python. Okay. So we can take a quick example of JavaScript and Python as well, and then we can talk about it. So I'll just clear it here. Let's switch to JavaScript. Okay, this should be good. I'm going to make AS10. I'm going to type console.log. Type of it. Okay, let's run the code. What is my output here? If I just make a equal to 10 and I print the type of a, the output becomes number. All agree? All agree? Okay. Now I'm just going to modify something. I'll copy this. I'll just put it to a string. Now I want to print the type. Remember, the same variable a, first I initialize with a number, now initialize with a string. Let's see the output. Did it throw me any error? Did it throw me any error? No, it did not throw me any error. It worked perfectly fine. The interesting part here is the same variable which was behaving as a number, now it is behaving as a string. And you can change it to anything. You can change it to an object, you can change it to any other type, Boolean or whatever you want. Because everything deep down is just an object. Everything deep down is just an object. Okay, so you can convert into anything that you want. Okay, which language is good to use for best practice and security? That's a good question. How many of you are front-end developers or you know front-end development? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, few of them. Do you guys know why TypeScript was created? JavaScript was there before, right? Why TypeScript was created? If you guys know the answer, you know the answer to this question that somebody just asked. Not just memory management, not just memory management. Anything else? Okay, understand one thing. JavaScript is an interpret language. TypeScript is a compiled language. So TypeScript is nothing. It's just the compiled version of JavaScript. That's it. TypeScript is just a compiled JavaScript. When we go for compilation, when we go for interpretation, just to answer the question that you asked, see, if we want something to test before pushing to the code, that is when we need the compilation first. So I will write the code in TypeScript so to make sure there are no errors before I push it to production. But if I need to debug something, then I don't want to compile every time, go through the jar files or whatever the files are generated. I would prefer something like JavaScript. So both languages have their different use case. When you go for debugging and stuff, it's better to use interpreted language. But whenever you go for a production code, it's better to use the compiled language. That's why. Okay. So I'll copy this. I'll bring it here. There is a code example. This is in the case of JavaScript. I can show you something similar in Python as well. This is for JavaScript, guys. For Python, guys, let me just show it here. Let's change it to, okay, looks like it is fine. No, that's good. Cool. I make equal to 10. One moment. I'm going to print the type of it. Let's start with this first. What do we get? We get it's an integer. Okay. And if I just change it to a string, let's say what we get. Clear, run code. What do we get? Now we get it as string. Same a, if I make it as an integer or if I assign it as an integer, it behaves as an integer. If I assign it as a string, it assigns it as a string. This part is still clear to all. This part clear to all. Okay. That's the example I've taken in Python. One moment, guys. Let me just cover this, then I'll answer the questions in the chat. Okay, now we're good. At last, we need to do development, then for which time the debugging is required. See, debugging is, okay, understand. You develop something, you deliver it. Once you deliver it, you find something which is not working as expected. That's where the debugging part comes in. Okay, development is one thing, but debugging is equally important because before even going to production or anything, you will be writing your unit test, integration test, and so on and so forth. So that's where debugging is important to make sure every flow is working fine. Do suggest some good reads references on the cover topics. As of now, what I'm teaching is sufficient enough. If you want, you can just Google about it. I don't have any specific reference in my mind. But as of now, what I'm teaching in the class is sufficient enough. If there is anything which is required extra or which I would recommend you to read, I will mention in those topics. As of now, we're discussing introduction to programming. So I don't think there is anything else which is required at the moment. Okay. Yes, we can have requirement for both. I'm not saying that you just have to do development and you just have to do debugging. You can have requirement for both. I'm just talking about the use case. Which use case suits better here? Okay. No, I'm not saying that you have to change the language. You can still do with one language only. I'm just talking about which languages has what use case. So compile time languages are better suited for building something or developing something to the production. Or interpret languages are more suited for the debugging purpose. That does not mean you cannot push an app in JavaScript. That does not mean that. You can still push in way. Okay. It's just that it comes with some security risk and all. That's why the reason TypeScript was created. Okay.